I'm back. The AC Show, officially brought to you by mortgage professional Rebecca Casey with DLC Origin Mortgages. Rebecca has a 16-year relationship with real estate, which helps her understand the entire process of home buying, not just the mortgage part of the transaction. And she was recently nominated one of the top 40 young gun mortgage brokers in Canada. Rebecca is an incredibly caring individual who loves working with young families looking to get into their first homes, as well as experienced buyers. She works with clients from all over and has flexible hours to help cater to all types of people. You'll get top-tier rates, products, and service from Rebecca Casey, mortgage professional with DLC Origin Mortgages. I'm back. A brand new episode of the AC Show, finally. I took a couple weeks off there, you guys, but hopefully you don't hold it against me. It's just been weird times trying to figure out what to do with my business, trying to keep the kids busy, and trying to keep my marriage intact. We're doing well, though, you guys. I hope you guys are all doing well as well. That was an Austin Powers moment there. Allow myself to introduce myself. Anywho, enjoy this episode, and if you want to sign up for my newsletter, that would be great at andrewchristophermusic.com. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast and share it, and you can catch my new live streams on Facebook every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 6:30 to 7:30 PST.
It's the Andrew Christopher Show. But really we call it the AC Show. Yeah, we really call it the AC Show. Really call it the AC Show. It's the AC Show.
What you're doing is working fine, so.
It's the
Yep, I think
AC
I'll just
Show
do that
with
way.
AC, your host. Check it out.
Yeah, man. So how you doing? What's been going on at your house with this COVID stuff? I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk a ton about COVID, and I don't want to talk a ton of music. But I just want to know some things that are going on a bit differently in your world because
Talk
of this.
about life
Yeah.
not because of, not about the actual thing itself. It's been interesting. Because I've been working from home, it's not that different for me. But Carly and I had the office downtown, and so we've moved most of her stuff back. But even so, I mean, the effect on business has been huge. I mean, some small businesses are doing fine. In her case, she's selling things that aren't necessities. It's, she's selling occasion dresses, and people aren't going out to that stuff. So we just shut the business down because for us to go to the post office and everything, it just hasn't worked. So, I mean, the biggest change is that business is Lavender and Lilee is just currently on hold until things clear up, and then
Yeah, that's tough. It's Lavender and Lilee, and it's like handmade clothing is what you were saying.
Yeah,
right? Kind of an
that's-
online
yeah.
boutique store.
So Lavender and Lilee handmade.com, which currently just takes you to a page saying we're closed for the moment. But my wife Carly, she makes everything on there. So bows, dresses, hair accessories, it's all vintage inspired. So it's from the 50s or 60s. A lot of the fabric is actually vintage whenever possible. And when it's not, it's at least vintage inspired. So
That's sweet. So do you go like thrift shopping to find these like vintage patterns and stuff?
honestly, yeah, we were doing that. We had
That's
a great
so cool.
weekly routine.
Yeah.
We'd drop the girls off at dance on Fridays at 3 o'clock, and we had an hour and a half. So we would head over to VV Boutique and see what fabrics they had, or what like old bed sheets and things. And it's things that you don't necessarily expect can make the most beautiful patterns. And so we'd find a thing here or there, and give it a good wash, and then make some stuff up. So, but a lot of it comes from collectors too. She had a good run of sources of people who had just shelves and bunkers of this stuff, and it was all well organized. But if you ever saw their houses, you would swear they belonged on hoarders. But that's where you get the stuff from. It takes hoarders to have the stuff, and then you take advantage of that sometimes. So,
Oh man, that's crazy. I can only imagine. Like I've watched. Jamie loves that show, Hoarders.
Yeah.
And so we've watched a few episodes together, and it's, oh man, to think people live like that, it's crazy. Like, have you seen any really bad ones, or are they just kind of like borderline hoarders?
They're rough. I remember one though that stood out to me was that it wasn't even that bad. The ones I think are bad are the ones where there's like dead animals and, you know, feces, and there's stuff mixed in with it, and, you know, the people climb in atop the 8-foot pile of garbage, and they're like, I think I hear a noise underneath this. Those are obviously bad. But one that touched me was there's this older guy. I didn't see the whole episode. It just looked like he had a lot of music equipment, and he didn't want to give up the music life. And I think he was in his 50s. He had guitars everywhere, and it wasn't unclean. It was just full, but it was clean. And I was like, well, you know, maybe that's fine. You know, does he belong on the show? So I kind of sympathized with him, but there's some rough living situations out there that people get themselves into. And a lot of it comes back to mental illness or things that they haven't looked after themselves.
Yeah, totally. It is pretty sad when you watch some of those shows. It's entertaining, I guess, but at the same time, it's when you really think about it, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. So it depends on the mood you're in, right? If you want some, you know, if you're feeling introspective, maybe don't watch shows like that.
Yeah. So that is a big thing I hadn't even thought about it with Carly's business. And you are such a big part of that too, helping her out. But so you guys kind of you put a post out saying, hey, for the time being, we're going to be shutting down. And, you know, I think personally that a lot of this stuff will come back stronger than ever, and you guys will be right back on your feet, hopefully. Do you share a similar view on that, or are you more skeptical?
I'm not more skeptical. I do believe that. I don't know what the timeline will be, and that's the big question for a lot of people is I think it will come back stronger. I think that, you know, without getting too much into the political and technical side of the whole virus management, I think that when things start to open up, it's not going to be all at once, right? I mean, we're not going to be going to see the Canucks play in October, I don't think personally. I want to believe, trust me. I don't want to be the guy that says it, but
no, I agree. I think I agree, yeah.
When will 18,000 people be allowed in a small space again?
Totally.
Right? Small business, on the other hand, especially online-based business, small businesses will be allowed to open because they're small square footage, not a lot of people in them, and I think that will create an opportunity for a lot of them to capture sales. I think a lot of small businesses that are pivoting right now to do online sales and curbside pickup will realize how easy it is, and maybe continue to do that. Carly loves plants and flowers and everything, and Minters is online, and Minters was never doing online sales before, but now they're doing curbside pickup. So will they continue that? I think they probably should, and same with Button Box. I mean, they were our neighbors below, and a good friend of ours, Jeannie at the Button Box on Mill Street, and she's had to switch to really push her online business, which she only launched a couple months before this happened, and the online business is what's keeping things going in there because you can't have people in the store. So it may change the way that people shop. People who wouldn't normally buy online now have to. And now those people are available to reach as customers. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think it will create a huge opportunity, but when, right?
On the flip side of that, and yeah, hopefully it does come back really strong for you guys. But then it's like, is this going to push people to think, wow, I can just stay isolated and shop online all the time. I don't even have to leave my house. And are we going to lose even more connection with people? I don't really think so, but that's just a question that popped into my head. I was like, whoa, what if people get so used to just staying at home that they just stay at home? I might not go play any other gigs. I'll just charge people to watch my live streams. You know, maybe I won't go to the pubs and stuff anymore.
Yeah. People are social. And even like, I'm not super social, but I look back and I go, I didn't go out that much. I didn't, but now that I can't, now I gotta. Because we had our outings, like once a week we'd go and do a few things, and we had hockey games and stuff like that. And so a couple times a month at least I was out at an event of some kind, and that's gone. And I think that's going to come back because it doesn't feel good to not be around people.
No, man. Yeah, I was definitely just playing devil's advocate because I think
absolutely.
I think this will just show people how important those social face-to-face connections really are. And so hopefully maybe it'll help us get off technology even more. If we're feeling like, man, I just miss being face-to-face with that person. I just want to meet them for coffee instead of just texting them all day or something.
Yeah, and if it could separate the two, right? If we could still have this wonderful tech that we've built and an ability to communicate, but then maybe it does put a little more value in the face-to-face connection, and it changes things that way. That could be cool.
Yeah, totally. Because I saw a buddy of mine just yesterday at a safe distance, but for the first time in like 3 weeks, I hadn't seen an actual friend. I had seen people, but I hadn't seen a friend face-to-face in something like 3 weeks. And then I saw him and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like I was about to cry. I just wanted to give him a big hug. I did not give him a big hug because
that's fair.
I kept my distance, but I was so ready for that, man. I was dying for it. Like it was a shock to my system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's missing. It's missing from everybody. And that's why so many people tried to go away on the weekend, even though they probably shouldn't have. And people are trying to be creative and come up with ways to see each other because, like I said, it just doesn't feel good, to lose that opportunity to connect with somebody. So
no,
on the flip side of it, though, I mean, for myself, granted, the first month was rough. I had a lot of in-person stuff that I had booked for my business, for music. And I had a kid he was, I call everybody a kid, but I had a guy coming out from Ontario and we were going to work on a record, and obviously that's on hold, things like that. So at first I was a little nervous because I really hadn't been pushing as much online work as I was when I first started. But I was quite fortunate where last week things with chess.com got pretty busy. And so now I am actually swamped for things are getting pretty serious. But now I'm back on track again. Awesome. So at least one of us is working still, and that's good.
Sometimes when I'm thinking about all the isolation stuff or whatever, and I wonder, I'm like, am I doing as okay as I think I am, or is that actually the part of me going crazy that's just telling myself I'm doing okay? Because it was, and then like one of these things happened the other day where I just freaked out. I was like, how is this all happening at once? We have Jamie's grandma living with us, and her car wouldn't start, which wasn't a big deal. She wasn't going anywhere. But I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna jump it and then drive it around the block, just to get it so it's working, keeping it healthy or whatever. And so I went to my car, and as I got in my car, I was like, oh, the winter tires are still on my car and it's not going to snow anytime soon. I really got to get those changed, but I don't want to go out and get them changed. Anyway, so I drove my car around in the winter tires to go jump my grandma's car, Jamie's grandma's car, and took my jumper cables out, connected them to my battery, and they started like shocking everywhere, like out of the middle of because the like coverings on the wires throughout are all split so bad because they're so old, and it got my leg hair on fire. It burned a little bit of my leg hair.
Oh man!
And I was like, oh, okay, these do not work. So I threw them back in the car. Sorry, Gamma, we're not going to start your car. I'm going to take mine in my winter tires back to the garage. And then our minivan had a flat tire. It just randomly was on something, and my air compressor that I had. So I plugged in my air compressor to pump up the flat tire in the minivan. And the air compressor won't work. It's not spitting out air. So then just today, we changed the flat tire into a spare tire. And eventually, I guess we'll go get the other one fixed. It must have a nail in it or something. But I couldn't believe it. And then I thought about that, and I was like, there's no way I'm doing okay right now. like all these
No.
stupid little things happening with all the different cars. But
Yeah, yeah.
I still feel okay. I don't know.
That's the most disorienting thing, right? It's not like there's something out in the streets that you can see. We're fighting an invisible battle, and it's not to like say it's a hard one. It's what should be a really easy battle, but it's mentally stranger than I think a lot of people imagined, and that's what's, I guess, interesting and difficult about it is trying to keep on top of that.
Yeah. It's been weird times for sure. I'm doing all these online streams. I want to say thank you very much for helping me with all the technical stuff that's been going on.
Of course,
with my online
anytime
streams, and I think they're getting better. It was so funny. I finally had this audio like perfect. I was so stoked. Okay, the audio, it's gonna sound so good. And then Jamie, for some reason, had the Wi-Fi off on her phone, so the video was all choppy and shitty for like for a little while. It kept lagging, and then so the audio, it sounded great, but it looked worse than ever. And I was like, wow, I finally perfect the audio thanks to Brendan.
Now the video,
and then the video went to shit, but she fixed it, and it's a work in progress. But I've been pretty stoked on those. It's been really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're getting a decent viewership. I was watching on Instagram at first because that's there's no more to it. And I was like, oh cool, 10 15 people come through, whatever, it's a few people, but actually everyone's watching on Facebook for you.
Oh totally.
And that's killer.
Instagram has kind of taken over that market, I would say. If you were to say Instagram or Facebook to anyone under 30, for sure it would always be Instagram. They would be like, oh, I'd rather have Instagram. I don't care about Facebook. But for some reason, these live streams, and I don't think my demographic is too far above 30. Like it's right around there. But yeah, the live streams, Facebook's been the place to be, I think.
Yeah, it was packed. I hadn't watched on Facebook before, but you had the hearts flying up the screen. There's comments everywhere. It was great. So, it's working. It's working for a lot of people by force, I suppose, but still working, right?
Yeah,
that's
it works.
Great.
It works for sure. I mean, obviously the main thing is the money's not there, but it works in terms of building your online presence. So hopefully when you get back out into the public, then you even have more of a following or whatever. Trying to find those silver linings, right? But
and I think people will appreciate and remember that. I think that's something that maybe is a small silver lining for people in art and in music is that money is always a challenge when you're working in the arts. It's just unless you're on a major label with unless you're the number one, it's always how it's going to be. But at this time, when everybody is stuck, when people are in need, when people are having a hard time connecting with other people, they're struggling. Maybe there's mental challenges with it as well. And artists are stepping up and they're performing for everybody more often than they normally would and more accessibly than they ever would. And I don't know. I don't think that's going to be unnoticed. I think that when we get to the other side of this, that people are going to remember everyone who stepped up, like yourself and Kyler and everyone doing these awesome live streams like several times a week around the world, mind you, not just here, but everywhere. It's not going to be forgotten.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I hope so, because it's pretty cool stuff. Like, and even for myself, I'm just stoked that I get to tune in and watch Trevor McDonald play a show, or to watch Kyler do his thing, because I never get to do that because I'm always working at the same time. But
you're always playing, and now you're doing these hour sets, and you have your own bills every night.
Yeah,
right?
we
it's
can
like
all
you're on
share
tour
the
together.
time slots. Yeah,
yeah,
it's cool. So kind of where I started to go with that was thank you for helping me with all the tech side of things. An insane amount about technology, and especially in music engineering. Duh, it's your career.
That's what I'm doing.
But I didn't know if that's what you would pick, or if there's something outside of that you think the most about. Or not that you think. I don't want it to sound any kind of negative thing, but like what you feel you have a really good understanding about in the world. is it this music stuff? Is it something else? And if it is the music thing, I need you to pick a second thing, just because I'm curious.
I'm glad that you actually prepped me on this one, because some of the questions we get prep and some of them we don't, right? But in this case, I'm glad you prepped me on it, because I sat and I thought about it for I think you sent it just before you went on, so like an hour or so ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. What do I know the most about? And I thought for a long time, and I'm like, I know a little bit about everything, because when I get interested in something, I dive in for months and I learn everything I can quickly, and then I find something else I want to do that. I'm always jumping around.
That's what led me to ask this question really specifically to you, was because you are such a learned person. Like, you seem to know quite a bit about a lot of things. And so I'm wondering if you had to pick an expertise thing that because I come to you for advice all the time. I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to do this here, I'm trying to do that. What do you think about the Canucks this season? You know a lot about sports, you know a lot about music. It's all over the place. So yeah, that's why I specifically came to you with this question.
I think my second answer, my second place answer, if you will, I'm really good at searching for things. I know how to use search terms well. I know how to Google well, which seems like a crazy thing to say, but it matters. How you search for something affects your results, and I'm good at that. And I know I'm good at that. So that's how I can seem as if I know a lot of things. It's not that I actually know a lot of things. It's that I'm really good at finding them quickly, so I seem like it.
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. Yeah.
But my number one answer,
still. You are still
I guess
knowing
it
those
is.
things. Yeah.
I guess that's true. Whether I remember them is a different story, but my actual number one answer, and it took way too long to come up with this, is that I think I know an obscene amount about retail grocery.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
I spent 11 years managing a supermarket, and to this day, I know a lot about food, a lot about different types of food distribution, retail operations, like employee management. I don't know at what point in my life my other knowledge will surpass my knowledge of retail grocery operation.
Yeah, interesting. So at least, is there still some things that are applicable, right? You can apply that to your life for the rest of your life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, just in the nutrition aspect, it's helpful. I don't necessarily follow it, but I know about it. But also, it's been incredibly helpful on the business side of things for helping Carly with Lavender and Lilee, because my experience with Safeway, I was dealing with a lot of sales reps and a lot of contracts and purchases and staffing and dealing with forecasting as a big part of it as well. Forecasting for business months ahead, planning for holiday sales, things like that. And I was able to take my experience, granted in a corporate situation, but go, well, what did we do there? And how can I apply this to this operation and this business? So, when Carly had a spring collection, or if it was Black Friday or something and we were running an ad, well, what did we do for ads at Safeway? How did we reach out to people? How did we connect with people? What was important? And how did customers react to the things that we did? And then how can I translate that to a different industry, but retail nonetheless? And a lot of it actually translates reasonably well.
Yeah, that is quite a big piece of knowledge or learning to have, is just how to run a business, or how a big business runs. And since you climbed so high up the seniority chain and you were managing stores, and then you get really hands-on look at that. So that's totally good knowledge to have. Because did you go to university for much? Did you go?
I did. I went 2 years in the business program.
Okay, yeah.
And I got hired at Safeway while I was studying, and they had the attitude, because they had a lot of people who wanted the jobs at the time. So their attitude was sort of, if you want it, you will dedicate everything to it. You'll quit this, you'll quit this, you'll quit this. And if you want to, if you want your own store, then you put your head down, you stop everything that you're doing, and you make it happen. You're available 24/7.
Yeah.
So, I did it. And I don't necessarily regret it in any capacity. And it gave me a lot of opportunities, including where I'm at today. But I do think, what would maybe have gone differently if I didn't take that leap, or if I didn't go in that path, if I maybe instead was like, you know what, only being halfway done my business degree, that's not going to cut it for me. Maybe that was an option, but it didn't seem like it at the time.
So where do you think that would have led you if you did not take that job and you went and finished your business degree, or what were your plans from there? And where do you think you would be today? Do you have any idea?
My plans were accounting. I was looking at chartered accountant programs, or even actuarial work, where you're sort of working to assign financial or numerical values to things that don't have them. So something like, what is the value of, assessing the value of somebody in insurance terms. An actuary is doing things like that, is doing, well, how much is this person worth? And it's a really challenging question, but there's a line of work that does that. And things like that, I was like, well, I think I'm suited to that. And I started going down the accounting and the numbers path, and I'd probably be doing something like that. Maybe I would be on the other side, though. Like, instead of being the guy running the studio and doing the recording, maybe I'd be the guy who is 35 and joins a cover band because I always wish I'd done music, and I'm paying a guy to record my songs. Maybe that would be the flip side of everything. I wished I'd done it.
Not the Matrix, but what's that? Butterfly Effect? I can't.
Yeah. I think that's what it was called.
One of those movies that they thought of. But I think this worked out pretty good for you, man. I mean, I know it's maybe not quite as easy paying the bills all the time as if you had that accounting job or whatever. But what do you think? I mean, you must feel a lot better doing something like this.
It's much more interesting, and the bad days are good days, right? I mean, the toughest day, editing is a grind, and if you've got 8, 16, 20 hours of editing to do or something, you're just sitting there and you're just aligning stuff and tuning things, and that's the sort of not fun part of everything, I guess. But that's not bad. I mean, I find that I get into the zone and I just work, and on those days where you're just grinding it out, it's not so much passion, it's more of a technical thing that you're doing. Those remind me of the good days that I was having at Safeway, where I was able to just focus and get things done that I needed to. So when my like tough days are the same as what my good days were, I feel good about it.
I've been listening to a lot of Tim Ferriss. Does that name ring a bell for you? He's an author.
He wrote a book? Yeah. Was he the 4-hour workweek guy, or is that a different one?
Yeah, that's okay. The guy. And he did a few after that. Anyways, he's sold millions of books or whatever, and he's got, I think it's one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
Really?
Yeah. And so I listened to his, and one of the questions he had really struck with me. I was like, this is so cool. And it could go any amount of ways. It could just be something funny, or it could be something pretty deep, but who knows? And it's, if you had a billboard that the whole world, the whole population would see, what would the message that you put on there be? Or it could be an image, or it could be writing text, whatever you want it to be. How would you design that, and what would it be?
That's such a big question.
I know. It's like, you probably needed more than an hour to think about this, but I gave you an hour, so here you go.
Yeah, I sort of thought about the process of it, and I think the first thing that would come to mind, and I'm not even going to be ashamed to say it, the first thing that would come to mind is what could I do that's self-serving? How could I profit off of this? How could I make something out of this? And I think after a while, it would become difficult to sort of come up with a concept that would actually do that well. And then I would probably start thinking a little bit more big picture about, well, what, I have an opportunity to say anything. What would I say? And that was where I kind of got to, is I got to the point where I was like, I would do something for me, like I'd advertise my business, or I'd do something. And I was like, well, no, would that do much for me? Probably not a ton. I mean, it would expose my business, but would it, it wouldn't be the biggest like financial windfall to make it worth this one opportunity. And then I started thinking about messages, and would I be the person to be able to put up some message that would alter people's perception on something? And then I'm like, no, I'd be way too full of myself to think that I could do that. So I don't, I mean, if it was right now, this second, I would just put up a billboard that says stay home. Because then we can all get outside sooner. We can go see Canucks games. So, you're asking me today. That's what I'd put up today. I'd say stay home. Please stay home. The war we're fighting is invisible, and it's easier if we just do this now. Deal with the pain up front. Yeah, even if we don't need to right now, let's say we didn't need to. What's the harm of an extra week or two then? There's nothing in the long run versus what the cost is of jumping out too early. So yeah, I'd put up a billboard that says stay home.
Stay home. In what color and what font?
I would use probably a classic, like just Times New Roman maybe. I mean, there's some nice ones that come on the MacBooks these days. Apple always has their font that they update every series, and I don't know what it's called. It used to be called like Calibri, or maybe that was the Microsoft one.
No, Calibri. I think you're right. Yeah.
Verdana, I think, was one.
Verdana,
there's ones like that. Yeah, and those are nice, but I just think the classic look of Times New Roman, it's been around for a long time. I think that would maybe connect with people.
That's funny. And for some reason, when you started saying that, I thought, okay, the writing would be black and the whole billboard would be yellow. I don't know why. The whole bumblebee thing, I guess. I love bees.
I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree. It needs to be clear.
Yeah.
And maybe it would be more resistant to dust and dirt than black on white would be.
Right.
So that could be good too.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll side with you on that. It doesn't hurt my feelings.
What's something you're trying to be better at these days?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that one because I was sort of seeking that answer myself during this introspective time of being stuck at home.
Yeah.
And I think I've always struggled a bit with balance in looking after myself, looking after my work, my family, all these things, and doing a good job at all of them at once has always been a bit of a struggle for me. Mm-hmm. When I get really engaged in work, that's all I think about. That's all I'm doing to a detriment. And when I'm looking after myself or my health, again, like we've known each other a long time. I'm either really looking after myself and I'm in great shape and I'm healthy and well, or I'm not looking after myself whatsoever. It's never a balance. And I think I've been trying during the last couple of weeks here to find a way to integrate some of that stuff into a routine so that I can keep that balance where I can spend family time, where I can have work time, where I can make sure that, I spend time to eat well, to work out, to do things like that so that I can actually have balance in my life. And I think I've struggled with that a lot in my past, and I'm working on that now.
That's really cool. And that definitely strikes a chord with me. And I think one of the main keys to life, you hear it a lot though, is balance. And it's something, especially for me on the fitness or working out side of things, that I've kind of struggled with because I think and this is one of the reasons why I quit my gym, because I was making that such a priority that it was causing kind of extra strain on Jamie, because I was always 5 days a week. I had to go to the gym for at least an hour, which meant I would be gone probably an hour and a half, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. And I made that such a priority, but it was so hard on her. And so that was one of the reasons I thought, okay, I'm going to leave this gym. I'll find ways to work out around home. If I do, great. And if not, I need to be okay with it. So that was the hardest part of it, is being okay with sacrificing the workout so that Jamie feels, or that Jamie has the support she needs, and that I can play with the kids or do that kind of thing. So it's, part of that balance is kind of an acceptance of not being able to do everything.
Yeah. And I think at first it's easy to think that in some way that feels like a failure, I guess, is that, I only got to the gym 3 times out of 5. I failed. And I think that's the mindset that makes it so difficult to accept, is that nobody wants to fail. And so, I didn't make it to the gym, I failed. My family's disappointed, I haven't seen them, I failed them. Oh, I didn't get this work done because I spent time with them and got my 5 workouts in. Now I'm failing at work. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. But that's, I think, the first reaction that maybe we have to all of those things is that if we don't achieve everything that we think we should, we just instantly think we failed.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I do feel like I'm trying to come to this place of a new understanding of the bigger picture and everything, right? And that's what I even told you. I was like, hey man, I want to try and, let's not just talk about music stuff. We know you know a lot about that, and I know a lot about that, and let's not just talk about COVID, and try and get a bit deeper without forcing anything to go too deep. Well, that's
just talk about life stuff.
But it's definitely a turning point for my listeners out there in the AC show. I do want to have a few more questions that I actually ask guests, and not just let it be too off the cuff, because I feel like that way it always just goes to a lighthearted conversation. When you actually have some kind of structure and questions, then I think it leads people to think a bit more, obviously. If you give them a bit of heads up, they want to think more intrinsically, like you said. So that's one of my goals for these next few episodes. And I'm glad I had these couple last weeks off. And now I feel like I'm starting fresh with this interview. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I can get passionate about it again or whatever, and just really take it to a new level, I think. Another one that was interesting, and hopefully this one doesn't get anyone in any trouble when I ask them, but what tabs, and this is more so from the side of what are you really interested in right now? So what tabs would be open on your internet browser, whether it's on your phone or on your computer? What have you been trying to research most lately?
So on my internet browser, not counting my email, because that stays open all the time. You sent me that, so then I left it. I left my laptop. I didn't use the internet on there anymore. Nice. I left it as is and moved to my phone. So 4 tabs open right now, and I'm not a big having tabs open guy. I try to finish my business and then move on.
Oh, me too, totally.
So my first tab is my chess.com profile.
Yeah, okay.
I'm playing a bunch of games on there, correspondence games, so it's 1 move per day or 1 move per 3 days.
Really?
So I always have a tab open because I've got, I think, 24 games on the go right now.
Wow.
So that's open. Obviously, like I said, I've been doing a lot more work for them lately, so that's kind of a big focus right now for me on top of that. But I do enjoy playing chess. And if you're a chess player, find me on chess.com, Brendan W, BRENDANW, and let's play. My second tab is the information and specs page for the Soundcraft Signature 12 mixer.
Yeah, okay.
Because I read the product manual earlier today, top to bottom, after a good friend of mine asked me for some assistance in getting his live streams going with that. I wanted to make sure I had the answers.
That was me, everybody. That's funny. Awesome. Thank you.
My third tab is Baggins Shoes, and they're in Victoria. My lovely Persian cat Stanley puked on my shoes a couple hours ago. And so...
You're trying to find new shoes.
Yeah, and they were older, they were Converse, and I've had them for, I think, 1.5 years or something. They were worn, they were due to be replaced, but I was just toughing it out because we're not leaving the house and nobody's seeing my shoes. So I was like, there's no need right now. And then he forced the issue, I guess. I mean, I could throw them in the wash, but like I said, they're already breaking down a bit. So I think a trip through the wash and dry would probably be the end of them.
Yeah, wow.
And then my fourth, go on.
It's like a good hat. You can't, once you wash it, it's done.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You could wash it and put it up on display just as a memory, I guess. But, I'm not going to save my shoes. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
Not the Chuck Taylors?
No, not this time. And my fourth tab is, I think, a really, maybe a curveball. It is the website Lee Valley Tools, and they're a Canadian website that specializes in woodworking tools.
Nice.
And things like that. And I've, over the past maybe year or so, slowly gotten more interested in finding a physical hobby where I make something. Because now that my hobby, I think I mentioned this on the last time I visited, now that my hobby is a job, what is my hobby? Right? So like I like playing chess, but it's a competitive game, but I don't know if that's quite a hobby. You know, I'm not good enough at it for it to be a hobby. And I've always enjoyed building stuff. I built my mixing desk myself. You know, I've built tables and things like that. A lot of stuff that doesn't require fine finishing work. If you can, you know, bend it that extra eighth of an inch to make it fit or whatever, then, you know, that's my specialty. I can put plywood together and I can put finish on it. But I thought, like, why can't I be better at that? And that's a hobby that a lot of people have and really enjoy. So I've been watching a lot of videos in our confinement about working with hand tools and chisels and lathes and things like that. And I found it very intriguing and interesting. And it seems it's physical, and there's times where it's difficult. Like when you're planing down lumber, it's, you know, it's a hard piece of work. But it seems so relaxing at the same time, where you're just working on something. You're working towards completing this product. I built a chessboard, obviously, was the first thing I did. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but I could have done a little better job. And, you know, now I'm looking at different ways that you make joinery, how to make boxes, things like that. I didn't really take it in school. I didn't take like wood shop after grade 8, so I didn't go through that process. So now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make, you know, some boxes or something, or I'll make a trunk for all the girls' toys, or I don't know. It's really interesting me right now. So I've been shopping for fair or reasonably priced like hand tools to start just, you know, playing around with that.
Yeah, that's cool. And that I can totally relate to that because, well, and I was thinking about this whole thing of hobbies, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't think enough people have actual hobbies. I think that's something that could be missing in a lot of people's lives. Again, for me, it kind of struck a chord with, have you seen my post about my craft challenge that the kid, it's Haven's, my 6-year-old's craft challenge, and I'm pretty adamant about this now, that we're going to sit down once a week for half an hour, and the whole family has to make a craft out of Haven's craft bin. And you just think of whatever you want and you make something. And when I think back, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm into it. I want to create something. I want to make a go-kart or a totem pole or a bouquet of flowers. And it's, for some reason, that just feels so good. You're working on something. It activates something in your brain, for me anyway. And it sounds like for you. So I would think it does that for most people. That, yeah, you're working on something and you're concentrating and it feels really good. Like it doesn't always go well and sometimes you get frustrated, but it still feels good.
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I noticed the craft challenges and I was having a good laugh at it. And I started thinking about it as well. And it's the same thing. I remember vividly Christmas time, and we're making gingerbread houses, and like everyone's done, and I'm there like focused in, you know, putting things like I'm putting these little tiny sprinkles along the edge of my roof. Yeah. And everyone else is finished, and I'm like, no, I'm busy. And I just got into it, and it's the same. Like we did Easter eggs and everything, and that didn't go as well for me. Easter eggs are not my medium.
Oh, okay.
But same thing. I got focused for a bit, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is great! I'm making something."
Yeah,
looked like crap, but I made it.
yeah, it felt good. So I would encourage anyone out there: make sure you're finding a hobby to get yourself into, whether it's making crafts or building stuff out of wood, like Woody's going to do, or music. I feel like an easy one. That's why a lot of people who are not musicians start picking up an instrument or writing songs or singing. And I think I kind of take that for granted sometimes, that my career is a lot of people's hobby. Like you don't often see that, right?
I wonder if the reason that there's, you know, we're seeing all the memes about people being stuck indoors, so they're cutting their own hair and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're going crazy, right? But is that maybe just not people realizing that they don't have a hobby?
Yeah.
Maybe that is it.
And maybe that's really what they want to do. Like these people who are
Yeah.
like, so they're like, oh, I have to cut my hair. And then they're like, oh, this is fine. I can do this again. Maybe I want to be, maybe I want to be a hairdresser, and they
Maybe.
should go to hair school and then come out of this thing with a new career.
I have to cut my hair. Oh no, I spent $400 on all the equipment. Had to do it,
Yeah,
right?
you
Like
had to do it.
So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they have these hobbies or things that they're not doing that they're passionate about, and they're bubbling up, and they're sort of not taking it seriously, or maybe they are. I don't know, but maybe that's part of what's going on and why people are feeling so anxious and so strange right now.
Yeah.
So that's my tabs.
Yeah.
That's where we came from. That's my current 4 browser tabs that I have open.
So one last question for you. I've done phone call podcasts before, a couple of them. But this is the first one where I had like a FaceTime screen in front of me as well. And how come you chose pink flamingos as your background on our Zoom call?
So on Zoom, you can pick whatever background you want, and it'll edit it out and put it in. And
didn't know that.
the photo you're looking at, I took. And
you did?
I did. I took it in January in Florida when we were on our trip, and I liked it. I took a few, like I'm not a photographer, but I took a bunch of photos, and every once in a while, I'll take 100 photos. 5 will be things I like, right? You eventually will get something that you think's good.
Yeah.
But I showed my photos to Carly, and she is a photographer, a very, very highly skilled one in my and most people's opinions. If you ask her, she's pretty hard on herself about it, but she takes some of the best candid photographs that I've ever seen. And I showed her this photo in particular that you're looking at, and she got very, very excited about it. And I was like, it's a good photo. She's like, no, it's an incredible photo. And so that's why I made it my background today.
That's awesome. Good. And I can't tell whether something's like I can tell if it's a good photo or a photo I like at least. I don't think I know the difference between a good photo and a great photo, or a great photo and a fantastic photo or whatever. But I do like it. It looks pretty nice.
I think it's an opportunity for discussion.
Yeah.
And I think that you do know the difference between a great photo and one that's not so great. And the reason I say that is because we can listen to music, and we can listen to a lot of different genres and stuff that we don't like. But we can still say they did a great job at something I don't like.
Yeah.
And so I think that maybe we can't articulate what it is about it, but I would be willing to say that if you were shown like a few photos and one of them was award-winning and the other ones weren't, I think you have a reasonably good chance of sort of identifying the photo that speaks to you, that has emotion. And I think that's why I like what Carly does for photography so much. She's not into the posed photos. She does the candid photos. But I get to see that a lot. It's so interesting to look and see the emotion and the action in the still photo. And that's so interesting, and it's compelling. And so I think that it's easy to say that we wouldn't know what to look for. We may not know how to make it, but I bet you we would know what was good, or what was at least compelling or made us feel something.
Yeah.
If we were to see it.
Yeah. Well, Woody, those pink flamingos, they're making me feel a lot of things. Or maybe it's just that I get to actually see your face right now. But I'm very happy right now. I'm feeling very full of love. This was a fantastic conversation. So thanks for being on the AC show.
Well, thank you for having me a second time. It's a pleasure, as always. And yeah, thank you. It's nice to break up the bit of insanity that is being stuck in our houses. So.
Yeah, man. Okay, are we going to play NHL or something?
Yeah, probably.
Still early-ish. Okay.
Still early-ish.
Carly, Jamie,
Yeah.
wait up. Oh, no.
Shit, there she
Okay, bye.
is. Goodbye.
Check it out.
No, I'm not really saying bye. I was just ending the podcast.